Today, I have the honor of introducing not just a guest, but a dear friend and creative partner. Jean Ngo is a father, filmmaker, and a man of faith who has served both in ministry and in media, including hosting his own television show. Jean and I worked side by side in production for 3 years, and I truly loved every minute of it. We made it through COVID together and walked through some uncertainty and witnessed God do great things in each other's lives. Jean is a graduate of the American Film Institute's producing program and brings a truly global perspective to storytelling. He has worked abroad in China, Germany, and the UK, as well as across the United States, producing more than 700 television episodes that aired throughout Chinese television. Jean has also produced countless commercials, promotional videos, and training videos, and served as an on-air host for 2 Paralympic Games in Beijing and Vancouver. He currently resides on the Canadian-US border and is a loyal friend and an avid jiu-jitsu practitioner, and in his spare time works as a corporate coach for Fortune companies. We recently worked overseas in the documentary Amazing Grace, The Untold Story, which you can now watch on Amazon Prime. I'm excited for you to hear his story and wisdom today. Jean, welcome to Pearls in the Valley.
Thanks, Jared. Great to be here with you.
Awesome. Well, look, why don't you tell us a little bit about what it's like producing in China, since not many of us have even been to China.
Producing in China has been one of the most eye-opening experiences in my life. I went there as a non-believer, and so I received Christ over there over 20 years ago, and that was a big deal. You'd think coming from the States, being born and raised in the South, that you'd become a Christian earlier, but no, I had to go all the way to the other side of the world to do that. Producing in China is weird because it is very much about what is not in the office. You have to build a reputation, get to know people, and that's pretty standard. But I've never closed a deal in an office, shaking hands and saying, "Hey, let's put this together." It was always somebody referred you, somebody knew you and talked up about you. And so in China, the term guanxi is important, really, really important, especially for business. And it just means relationship. And so, you go out to dinner, they treat you real well there. Lots and lots of food, then drinks. And then usually you go out to karaoke, and it's a big part of the culture. I was terrible at singing, so much so that I went out socially my first time with some friends from the Beijing Film Academy. That's where I was when I first moved to China. And one of the people in our group, she came up after when I sang my second song, because the first song was maybe a horrible experience and a fluke. And she came up and took the mic out of my hand and said, "You're done." It was that bad. And so I had to find songs that I knew how to sing. And so I figured I practiced and learned one song for business. And then I had a backup song in case they wanted an encore and that wouldn't be a fluke. Well, my rule is after the second song, you don't sing anymore, Jean. There's only 2 songs. So that's it.
Well, that's good. At least you had to, tighten up your skills in karaoke. And, fortunately, I never experienced that and actually saw you singing. So I'm very glad we never experienced that together. So tell us what it's like working in the United States versus Asia. Like when you came back, what was a little different?
Yeah. So just for transparency, most of my time working in media has been in television. So I started at Fox when I got out of college, and that's a separate story, but did promotional videos for a marketing department at a local TV station when I started. And then the TV shows, that exploded in China, where it wasn't just producing. It was hosting, it was writing, it was directing. Some of the teams I had were staffs of 30 plus writers and editors. And it was great to kind of have that experience. I've only worked on a few movies in both the US and China. I've produced 7 short narrative films myself, especially while I was in film school. But I haven't been able to produce my own feature like you. And so those are the things that I really want to do before. Working between the 2 countries, there's a lot of same titles, but different expectations. So even in China, it's diverse like that. So you'll get like a crew to shoot a movie for a TV series or whatnot. And you'll have, let's say in China, 3 different parts of the country that all come together to shoot a film, and it's like a cultural conflict.
Hmm.
So you'll have, let's say, the term grip. All right,
Uh-huh.
some will expect you to move these things, but not other things, and another part of the culture will expect you to move these other things and not
Uh-huh.
these other things. And so they will then, um, because of the expectations, they will then fight each other. So I've been on set where there's been like fist fights. There's
Wow.
been like stuff that you pick up and you try to kill the other person. All right, in China, it's insane. So somebody from Hong Kong versus somebody from Guangdong province versus somebody from the mainland that speaks Mandarin. They all like have sort of a mutual respect to a certain degree. But when you cross those lines, it's like having three different unions in Hollywood with the same titles, but with different job descriptions fighting each other.
Oh, wow.
It's
So,
crazy.
so in the interview process, are you also thinking size? Like this guy's big, I'd want him on my team in case the fight breaks out?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta pick your battles and who's fighting with you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Got to
I
have
mean,
a good army.
I shot one film. It was a big propaganda film in Western China. It was going to be like the big premiere propaganda film, and the Beijing Film Studios had that. I was the only English speaker besides the DP. He was a good friend of mine, so he brought me on as camera loader. We were on the side of a mountain for 30 days, working minimum 18-hour days,
Hmm.
minimum, um, all day, all night, carrying equipment up and down. When you rent a camera in China, it comes with its own assistant. That
Oh, wow.
assistant cleans camera every day, carries camera. Usually he will defer to an operator, but if you need him, he'll operate. He's just making sure that the camera equipment's going to be working exactly the way that you're supposed to have it. Um, they didn't feed us for 3 days, by the way. So
Oh,
for food sake,
nice.
yeah. I mean, I lost like 20 pounds on that shoot. It was hardest shoot I ever had. When
Well,
I went,
it beats using Ozempic.
yeah, seriously, way better. um, and I wasn't that big in the first place, so that's not a lot of weight to lose. But in when I went to LA shooting over there, you have 6 hours of lunch and another 6 hours, and then you do another hot meal if you're going to keep going. And so union rules or expectations is not in China, not the way
Right.
that it's when I was there.
Are
And
there
so
even unions in China?
no, the only real union is the powers in power.
Right.
That's the ultimate.
Hmm.
Whereas if you decide you want to go and be in the film industry over there, you're going to have to abide by what the powers say, and that's it.
Right.
Yeah, and that's in television as well. I mean, I have a quick story about where um, so I I only had one contact when I went to China, when I went to Beijing, and he was an advertising agency boss. Um, my friend contacted him, said, "Hey, John's going to be moving to Beijing. See if there's anything you guys can do together." So I met him. He said he had a client that had a magazine that was going to be converted to a television series, but he needs somebody to write them. So I said,
Mhm.
"Okay, cool." So I read the magazines; they're all in English, and I wrote 30 episodes on a TV show format.
Mhm.
Sent that to him. He loved it, and then he says, "Hey, you ever thought about hosting? You want to host these?" And I said, "Are you paying?" He's like, "Yeah." And so I hosted 30 episodes, which was cool.
Wow. Yeah.
Shot them back to back, down and dirty in the studio. Had a co-host, and I helped produce that. The big TV stations, China Central Television, saw it and asked me to come in for auditions. And so I came in, did the auditions. They liked it. It was great. And they were turning their 15-minute show format into a 30-minute format. Um, and this is the flagship show. So it was going to
Mhm.
be the prime.
It's awesome.
The, um, the big boss at the end, kind of like a video game, pulled me in and said, we went out to dinner and had a chat with me with some of the TV show producers. And he said, "Well, what's your favorite show on our channel?" And I'm 25 years old. I go, "I don't watch your channel. I don't know." And he goes, "You want to be a host on on our channel, but you don't even know our shows?" I was like, "Yeah." And then I could see the other producers like go like this, like
Yeah.
they're like, "What?" And he thought about it for a second. And the boss goes, He goes, "That's good. I can trust you now."
Oh, wow.
And so he was my advocate. Like he's high. He's number two guy at the station.
Mhm.
And he goes, "I can trust you now because you gave me a real honest answer." Because nobody
Wow.
here would do that.
Wow.
And so he advocated for me. He looked out for me. He made sure his team looked out for me. They ended up calling me like was one take Jean, where you yeah, because I learned to read the teleprompter. I had to like make sure that I knew my motions, right? In
Yeah.
terms in front of being in front of the camera, the timing of it. So I had to produce myself. So
Right.
initially when I watched myself, I was like, that's horrible. And I had to analyze what I was doing, figure out how I was going to present myself, and then work it so that the Chinese teleprompter girl who didn't speak English and didn't read English, she just clicked once and let it fly. Whatever pace that was, I had to go by that.
Right.
Um, and so I ended up hosting those shows, and that show had 9 satellites around the globe.
Wow.
Ended up being the most popular show for at least 3 months on the channel, and the it had over 40 million viewers a day, every
Wow.
day. So I was on the air 2 hours a day because it broadcasts 4 times a day for 30 minutes. So that's 2 hours a day that was on the air. I mean, I went to Hong Kong. I had my own fan club, multiple ones actually, that would write the station. There was mail coming in. It was a pretty interesting kind of experience to have. I mean,
Right.
when I rode the
That's
subway, I could
awesome.
hear people talking about me in Mandarin.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Well, is there any struggle that you look back on now and say, like, man, God was all in it, but at the time, I mean, you had no clue what was going on, and it was pretty rough.
So my heart was not in broadcast TV as it was in feature film,
Mhm.
and so I applied and got into AFI, American Film Institute. Went through 2 years of going through that program, and when I graduated, um, the weird thing was I couldn't find work in both television or film. And AFI, I'm not a trust fund kid, so I didn't have the money to pay for it myself.
Right.
And I got out, and I was like, I got these student loans. I have to eat. I have to find a career. And now the TV stuff that I was doing is gone. I mean, I
Mhm.
used the TV stuff in China as like a calling card. So when I produced outside, I had a good rate, um, and people paid me well, but the TV
Mhm.
stuff didn't pay hardly at all. And so I had to go into a different direction. So God gave me an opportunity to work in supply chain. I did supply chain engineering for 2 years. I worked in Beijing, I worked in Mexico, and then I worked in Texas.
Wow.
I did that for about 2 years. It fed me. That was based on my MBA in production operations.
Mhm.
I mean, I was thankful for that for sure.
Absolutely.
And then when I went to Texas, the third project I worked on, when that completed, I just felt I should stay there without a job, without a place to live. And so for 10 days, there was a girl in my small group that had already paid for an apartment and she had left because there was remaining 10 days there. And so I slept on the floor of an apartment in a sleeping bag for 10 days and had brother in Christ from my small group in my church come and he prayed for me every day. And then a month later, I find myself in a media ministry in, South West Texas. And that media ministry is where I joined a month after that, coming on full time and kind of merging my faith plus the media background. And so that ministry has a film called The Hope. You can find it at thehopeproject.com. It covers creation of Pentecost in 80 minutes. And my
Wow.
role there, and I'm so proud of having been a part of that, um, we use that film to
Mhm.
partner with missionaries in the field to adapt that film into people groups' languages. So in your heart language, you can hear the Judeo-Christian worldview, all the underpinnings when you watch that film. And if you couple that with a Jesus film, then you've got really the breadth and the depth. The breadth
Yeah.
of the worldview and the depth, which is basically Luke, right?
Right.
95% Luke is the Jesus film. So I worked that for 7 years, and it was one of the most spiritually growthful periods of my life. Because when you join ministry, you don't really know what you're
Yeah.
doing. Um, I went to a wedding in LA soon after I joined. My buddy was getting married, and before the ceremony, I was chatting with this guy at the bar, and I go, "What do you do?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm a pastor." that's cool. Are you going to be doing this wedding? He goes, yeah, yeah, I'm going to be doing the wedding. And I asked him, oh, okay, so have you been ordinated? And he goes, yes, I've been ordained. And then, and I go, yeah, that's cool. And he goes, what are you doing? I go, nothing. I didn't want to tell him I was in ministry and I didn't know the word ordained. I'm an idiot.
That's
So,
funny.
yeah. Yeah. But I learned all the questions you're supposed to answer as a believer working as vocational ministry. I mean,
Right,
my theology developed significantly,
right.
and I had to understand all the questions that my friends who are non-believers and believers. I mean, my two best friends are non-believers; they're both atheists, um, and it was hard,
Yeah.
talking with them. One of them I talked all night from sundown to sunup twice, and he's still not a believer.
Huh.
But the questions I didn't have answers to, I had to find answers. And now my theology, my faith in Christ, rock solid. I understand why I believe in what I believe, and I'm able to provide answers. That's a really critical element. And I try to live my life according to Galatians 2:20. That's a life verse for me. It really sums up the gospel within one verse. So.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Well, I know, one of the last films we got to work on together was Amazing Grace: The Untold Story. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience working on Amazing Grace and working, over in the UK?
Sure. The people I met um, on that were really fun, but the people I got to work with, I was super excited because I already knew them. I knew you, Jared. I knew your wife, Wendy, and I know Ruben really well. We all served together. It's just who you work with because you spend so much time together on a set. Uh,
Mhm.
that makes such a huge difference. I mean, you could have the opposite experience and not like the people you're working with. That's horrible.
Yeah,
But the people that you love spending time with, that you like having conversations with, eating and just spending life together. I mean, I love you. I love your wife. I love Ruben very, very much. And to be a part of that production was a huge deal. Y'all brought me on as a first AD. Working in the UK was really interesting because, you know, it's different culturally.
mhm,
Yes, we speak the same language, but we have different terms. We
right,
have different expectations. And the crews there, so we had two parts. One we shot in Olney, and that was really great, trying to secure locations. And you were dealing with all of that, the costumes. I think you're
oh,
gonna
yeah, it's
maybe share a little
massive,
bit about that.
it's
Um,
massive, yeah,
and the talent. I mean, there's all sorts of different folks. One of my most proud times was working with the choir that came in.
yeah,
I mean, we were under extreme time constraint by the time they got to set, and there was only a little tiny window. And I knew that if we didn't get that shot that day, we'd lose their portion of the film.
right,
And I mean, this was a pretty prestigious choir group. I mean, they in the UK especially. And one of the proud moments of my life was being able to communicate to them how important it was, this film, how important it was to communicate the message of John Newton and his contribution, not only to the song, but also to the world. I mean, everybody knows the song Amazing Grace. It changes lives, that
yeah,
one song. And so, communicating to the choir on how they can be a part of that and getting them to choreograph and work through and getting those shots meant a lot to me. And I'm real proud to be a part of that when we went. Ruben was a great director. He's a great producer. He's got a great vision, and technically
right,
he's solid. I think of
right,
him as the James Cameron of the faith based directing world.
yeah,
You know,
he
and then
is,
I obviously love you and watching you and Wendy making sure that things will be able to move forward. That's what producer does. He or she
yeah.
delivers.
Well, it was blast. I think, I look back on it and just the experience we had of sharing that story and sharing such a significant part of history, that John Newton, uh, basically contributed to the world, like you said. And the song is so meaningful to everyone who has experienced the love of Christ. So to go from such a dark part in his life all the way to having a major part in ending and abolishing slavery in England,
Mhm.
is tremendous, you know. So also, I would love for you to share about, the moment you were able to wear a wig in the Church of Olney and be a part of the audience. I didn't really know there was too many Asians in Olney at that time. Why don't you comment on that?
So I'm sitting there minding my own business, not bothering anybody. And somebody says, "Hey, we need some more background actors." I was like, "That's cool. I'm sure you'll find some."
Let me
And they
go
go,
ask
"No,
around.
they're like, no, put this on." And I'm like, okay. So I put it on. I look at myself and I'm like, this is horrible. Like I feel like I'm culturally appropriating England, which is not good. So,
Yeah,
and
I don't
so I
know if
put it
they did.
on.
Yeah, I don't know if they did too many close-ups on you with the wig on in the camera.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's the smartest thing. But I don't know, somebody, I forgot who it was. They said, "No, you're going to be far enough back where we can't see your face." So I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm there. It was just a hoot,
Yeah,
just a hoot. It was a 1 day
had a great
deal.
time.
And, I got to be with my dear friend, Jared. And then we got to costume it up. It was almost like we were
Right.
going to go to some party that night, it was great.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we really looked that good though, but
One an improvement.
yeah, it was pretty bad. Well, look, I appreciate it, John. We could talk for days, and I'll have you back on Pearls in the Valley, and we'll talk more. But thank you for coming on.
I love you, Jared. Thank you for letting me be here.
Absolutely. Well, as we wrap up today's episode on Pearls in the Valley, we hope this conversation encouraged you, strengthened your faith, and reminded you that God truly does create pearls in our valleys. If this episode helped you or ministered to your heart in any way, would you take a moment to share it with someone who might need it, someone that might need encouragement? Be sure to follow, like, and subscribe so you never miss an episode, and help us spread stories of hope, perseverance, and God's faithfulness beyond the podcast. Visit redpearlmission.org to learn how you can keep faith-based filmmaking rolling and shining light where it's needed most. Until next time, keep trusting God in the valley. He's not done with you yet.